nuclear weapons. The phrase alone probably conjures images of mushroom clouds, Cold War duck and cover drills, and that lingering fear that humanity might just invent a way to accidentally delete itself. It's a valid concern. These things are terrifying by design. They're the ultimate "don't make me turn this apocalypse around" tool in international relations. And yet, for all their world-ending bluster, the actual details of who has what when it comes to nukes are surprisingly murky. So today, we're going to break down exactly which countries are sitting on a stockpile of potential mushroom ingredients, how many they've got tucked away, and what that means for, the continued existence of everything ever. Buckle up, because this is going to be a blast, metaphorically speaking, we hope. Since their creation, these weapons have shaped global politics, wars, and even the very fate of humanity. Who has them? How many do they have? And what would a comparison of military strength look like? Stay tuned. Let's address the elephant in the room, or rather, the very large, irradiated, bald eagle on the planet, the United States, the OG nuclear nation, the ones who kicked off this whole atomic party back in 1945, and frankly, haven't stopped spiking the punch bowl since. Now, the US government likes to keep their exact nuclear numbers a bit closer to the vest. But experts estimate they've got around 5,244 nuclear warheads. That's enough to make the entire planet momentarily regret its life choices. But here's the thing about America and nukes. It's complicated. After dropping 2 on Japan, the US has been all about this weird balancing act. They want everyone to know they've got the biggest, baddest arsenal around. Deterrence, they call it. On the other hand, they also want to be seen as responsible global citizens. It's a tough needle to thread, especially when you're constantly upgrading your nukes. Mixed messages, America, mixed messages. Russia. A land of vast forests, frozen tundra, and enough nuclear weapons to make a doomsday prepper blush. You see, when it comes to amassing things that could obliterate all life on Earth, Russia takes a certain pride in keeping up with the Joneses, or in this case, the Jones teens. While the exact numbers are shrouded in more secrecy than a Kremlin bathroom break, experts estimate Russia has a whopping 5,889 nuclear warheads. That's right, they've got more potential for global annihilation than there are Starbucks in North America. Now, to be fair, Russia has a long and storied history of being, let's say, intense. They've had invasions, revolutions, czars with questionable facial hair choices. You name it. They've probably fought a bear over it at some point. Russia and the US have been locked in this nuclear tango for decades. And while both sides have made some efforts to reduce their arsenals, thanks Gorbachev, the situation is still about as stable as a Jenga tower built by a caffeinated squirrel. China, the land of ancient history, delicious dumplings, and a rapidly growing nuclear arsenal. They're like that friend who shows up to the potluck with a whole roasted pig. You knew they were capable of it, but it's still pretty impressive, and maybe a little intimidating. While China was a late bloomer to the nuclear party, they didn't test their first device until 1964. They've been making up for lost time, like a student cramming for finals. Current estimates put their nuclear warhead count at around 410, and that number is only going up. They've adopted what they call a no first use policy, meaning they've pledged not to be the first to launch a nuclear attack. Still, China's growing nuclear might has everyone a bit on edge. You're not sure if you should befriend them or run for cover. France. The land of fine wine, romantic strolls along the Seine, and a nuclear arsenal that says, we may have surrendered in a world war, but don't even think about trying it now. They're like that friend who insists on bringing their own artisanal cheese to a party. A little extra maybe, but you have to respect the dedication. France has around 290 nuclear warheads, most of which are deployed on submarines and ships, because let's face it, driving a tank through the English Channel is a logistical nightmare. And while their stockpile isn't as massive as the US or Russia's, it's still more than enough to turn a bad day into a global extinction event. They didn't join NATO's nuclear sharing agreement, preferring instead to maintain their own force de frappe. That's strike force for those of you who haven't brushed up on your French. Their testing in the South Pacific in the 1990s caused international outrage, and their insistence on maintaining an independent nuclear deterrent raises questions about whether they're truly committed to disarmament. But hey, at least they're not boring, right? The United Kingdom, a land of tea, crumpets, and a nuclear arsenal that's about as subtle as a Spice Girls reunion tour. They're like that quiet neighbour who everyone thinks is harmless until you see the crossbow collection in their basement. The UK has around 225 nuclear warheads, enough to ruin everyone's day. They maintain a minimum credible deterrent, enough to make any potential attacker think twice. They don't really talk about their nuclear weapons much, unlike some countries. Cough, Russia, cough. Still, the UK's commitment to nuclear weapons hasn't been without controversy. Their close relationship with the US raises concerns about their independence. But hey, at least they're polite about it, right? Pakistan, a land of vibrant culture, delicious food, and a nuclear arsenal that's about as subtle as a Bollywood dance number. They're like that friend who brings a flamethrower to a bonfire. A little much maybe, but you definitely don't want to be on their bad side. Pakistan has around 170 nuclear warheads, which they developed in response to their, shall we say, complicated relationship with India. It's a classic case of if they have it, we need it too, which, in the world of nuclear weapons, is about as comforting as a hug from a bear trap. Pakistan insists that their nuclear weapons are purely for defensive purposes, and they've taken some steps to improve the security of their arsenal. But with tensions with India still simmering, the situation remains about as stable as a house of cards in a wind tunnel. Chapter 7. India, they've got the curry and the kaboom. India, the land of ancient traditions, Bollywood musicals, and a nuclear arsenal that's about as subtle as a peacock in a chicken coop. They're like that friend who shows up to a dinner party in a full-on ball gown, a little extra maybe, but undeniably fabulous. India has around 164 nuclear warheads, which they developed in response to, you guessed it, Pakistan. It's like a really tense game of nuclear ping-pong, except instead of paddles, they're using weapons that could wipe out entire cities. Like China, India has a no-first-use policy, meaning they pledged not to be the first to launch a nuclear attack. Still, India's growing nuclear arsenal has raised concerns in the international community. It's like trying to keep the peace between two cats in a yarn shop. It's only a matter of time before things get messy. Chapter 8. Israel, the never confirm, never deny approach to global annihilation. Israel, a land of ancient history, falafel, and a nuclear arsenal that's about as well kept a secret as a surprise party where everyone shows up in a happy birthday hat. They're like that friend who refuses to confirm or deny whether they're dating someone. Everyone knows the answer, but they're sticking to their story. Israel has a policy of nuclear ambiguity, meaning they refuse to officially confirm or deny whether they have nuclear weapons. However, it's widely believed that Israel possesses around 90 nuclear warheads, which, in the grand scheme of things, is still enough to ruin everyone's day. Israel is surrounded by countries that aren't exactly their biggest fans, and they've fought several wars since their founding in 1948. Still, Israel's nuclear ambiguity has been a major source of tension in the Middle East. It's like trying to build trust in a relationship while refusing to answer any questions about your past. It's not exactly a recipe for success. Chapter 9. North Korea, where international sanctions meet karaoke night. North Korea, a land of, well, it's hard to say really. Information about North Korea is about as easy to come by as a sober Kardashian at a club opening. But one thing we know for sure is that they've got a nuclear arsenal that they're not afraid to brag about. They're like that friend who posts about their workout routine after eating a single salad, a little try hard maybe, but you can't help but be impressed and slightly terrified. North Korea is estimated to have around 40 to 50 nuclear warheads, which they've developed despite facing crippling international sanctions. It's like trying to build a rocket ship out of duct tape and paper clips. Impressive, but also a little concerning. North Korea's nuclear ambitions pose a serious threat to regional and global security. Their unpredictable behavior, coupled with their lack of transparency, makes them a wild card in an already volatile region. Well, there you have it. A whirlwind tour of the world's nuclear arsenals. Don't worry, the indigestion is probably just from that third helping of existential dread. Nuclear weapons are like that friend who's fun but tends to set things on fire. They're exciting, dangerous, and better off staying home. Convincing countries to give up nukes is like getting a cat to take a bath. But hey, let's end on a positive note. Significant efforts have reduced nuclear stockpiles. Smart people are working to prevent a nuclear apocalypse. Maybe we can avoid turning the planet into a radioactive wasteland. If you enjoyed this, give a thumbs up, share and subscribe for more. Let's stay informed, stay curious, and work toward a safer world.